I'm at the age where a lot of high school and college friends are at the point in their careers where they're looking for a major pivot, and a few have seriously considered getting into real estate. They got the people skills, the drive, the passion for helping others, but as you can imagine, the hardest part is often finding the best way to get started. And that's where RealtorsRealEstateSchool.com can be a game changer. Realtors Real Estate School has the 50 years of know-how, the networking and resources to help you get started. Visit now for a free consultation. Again, that's RealtorsRealEstateSchool.com. You remember that amazing little cafe you discovered last summer, or that perfect hiking spot you heard about? Well, with the Overlook mobile app, you can create personal lists of places you've been, want to go, and always see everything on a map. Share your favorite hidden gems with friends and family. Or, keep your secret spots private for you. The best part, no ads cluttering your list and no one selling your interests or travel data. All you gotta do is download the free app at overlookmaps.com and check out overlookmaps.com/Chicago to see some of our personal favorite CityCast lists on a map and in your pocket. Overlookmaps.com. Collect and share the places that matter to you. Today on CityCast Chicago, are military personnel headed to Chicago? How has the city fared in reducing traffic deaths? And what the hell is a Raddle, and do you want to play? It's Tuesday, August 26th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. I am joined this morning by the one and only executive producer, Simone Alicea. Good morning, my friend. How you feeling? How was your weekend?
Hey, good morning. My weekend was okay. I got a new phone. That's the big, exciting thing.
Did it break? Were you forced?
I don't know. My phone stopped taking or being able to make incoming calls.
It's kind of ridiculous how bad they throttled down a couple years after getting them. Talk about getting your phone Saturday night. I was out at EatsCon Saturday during the day. I felt extremely hot. I felt like I could only stand in the sun for so long out at the salt shed. Kept going back inside to cool down. But then on Sunday, I went out for a long walk and I had a hoodie on. I don't know about you, but fall is probably my favorite season. And though I am not ready for summer to be over just yet, I don't know. The first hoodie walk of the season felt kind of good.
I'm a little offended by how cold it is. I personally would still like to be wearing as few layers as possible. And there is something that really upsets me about having to put an extra layer on just to go outside. Yeah, I also am frustrated because, Jacoby, I just finished packing away my winter clothes in July. I got to it very late and my room was really messy for a long time. And I was really proud of myself for packing it all away. And if I have to break that out within the next few weeks, I'm going to riot. I'm going to be so mad.
Nah, I completely understand that. I mean, right now at the time of us recording this, it's 66 degrees outside. It's very cloudy.
I can see some blue from where I am.
I've had softball rained out for the last 2.5 weeks. I'm actually excited to play in a little bit of breeze. Sun going down a little, just a smidge earlier, right? I ain't talking about 4:00 sunsets just yet. I ain't talking about 40 degrees, but 70 degrees. I'm gonna take that every day of the week. I'm gonna take it every day of the week. Some news I was paying attention to over the weekend: Trump's threats to deploy military officials, the National Guard, in Democratic-led cities, including Chicago, have picked up. The Washington Post released some reports over the weekend that the Pentagon has been planning for weeks to deploy up to maybe 2,000 troops to Chicago. For what exactly? The administration will tell you it's to fight crime and homelessness and immigration. But Simone, how have Illinois and Chicago officials reacted to yet another threat at our city?
Yeah, I think basically what Mayor Brandon Johnson, Governor J.B. Pritzker, pretty much all of our local officials are don't don't do this. This is not, it is unnecessary, number one. It's unlawful. It's unconstitutional. So the quote from Johnson, uncoordinated, uncalled for, and unsound, right? Nobody in leadership right now in Chicago and Illinois wants this. We first heard about these renewed threats we heard about on Friday. Trump gave a press conference sort of doing a mission accomplished kind of lap regarding the occupation of DC, right? Regarding the deployment of National Guard troops there, sort of saying, look, we did what we wanted to do, et cetera, et cetera. And then was sort of going on to saying, yeah, because of our successes, quote unquote, here in DC, now we're going to go to Chicago. We have definitely plans to go to Chicago. And then when that came out on Friday, it sort of sounded like more of the same, kind of as you allude to, right? Trump loves to keep Chicago in his mouth. He loves to threaten this city. But then a report from the Washington Post over the weekend on Saturday indicated that there was sort of serious planning at the Pentagon, that they were really starting to like kind of lay out what would the steps be to bring the National Guard to Chicago. If this happens, I think it would be a really, really different from what has happened in DC and California. There's a lot more federal control over DC in general. They're like literally using different laws to sort of justify their bringing in the National Guard there.
The president can mobilize the National Guard in D.C. to take up local policing powers with very little justification in comparison to other places. He can mobilize them in other cities and states by way of a federal emergency, which is the justification they used during the very rightful and necessary protests that were taking place in Los Angeles to the spate of ICE raids that were going on in the city a couple of months back. And that deployment is being challenged legally in court from California officials. And it's still moving its way through. But it's clear we saw when they deployed National Guard in LA, there are all these reports of there was no planning. There's no way for these people to sleep. They hadn't thought about feeding these individuals. Like, again, there was no clear directive on like what your job, what your daily duties are. I've seen videos out of DC of just people sitting on their porch at night and military officials walking by on some, do you have identification? Do you know the laws? Make sure you're not up to any trouble. Just kind of flagrant oversteps of power. But it's also clear that it's vastly uncoordinated. Like there's no real plan here.
Well, and frankly, that's the part of it that's really alarming to me. There are no major protests happening in Chicago right now. Crime is down in Chicago. Like violent crime is down in Chicago in particular. And so the idea that somehow we need military help to deal with crime is sort of ridiculous on its face. The other thing that worries me, though, is if you do send troops to Chicago, Chicago is a city that will come out and rally and protest and demonstrate. And that makes me worried for people's safety of what's the response going to be when inevitably Chicagoans stand up. I don't foresee any way that this happens that we're not going to see massive demonstrations.
Again, to see military officials potentially participating alongside federal officers in ICE raids. Chicago has already been protesting those ICE raids. The idea of military officials patrolling city streets, often, let's be real, most likely in Black and brown neighborhoods, to which Chicagoans are going to come out and push back against because of the over-policing in our neighborhoods, the lack of resources in our neighborhoods, while we watch federal tax dollars be wasted on these patrols, isn't going to sit well. The idea that they are going to just vaguely and generally fight homelessness, what the hell does that even mean? The idea of them with no arresting powers, no law enforcement powers, rounding up unhoused people in Chicago, reporting unhoused people, disrupting encampments. But then when you listen to Trump and his officials talk out loud, as someone reaches for more and more power, more and more mechanisms to showcase their power, to to stand proudly in their authoritarian choices. The fact that our city, the people, all of us who live here and work very hard to, protest and look for ways to actually lower crime as the federal government discontinues funding for anti-violence, strips funding for education, strips healthcare, strips infrastructure investment, all of the things that the data actually says leads to reductions in crime, leads to reductions in precarity.
Well, here's the other thing, Jacoby. You say patrolling black and brown neighborhoods, maybe, or they're just going to be hanging out downtown as a show of force. You know what I mean? It could kind of go either way. I also think it actually creates unsafe situations for Chicago police officers. They at least know the city, right? They at least are out here every day. You have people coming in who have no idea what they're doing, no idea where they're going, puts police in a position of like, how are they supposed to defend Chicagoans? Like, they're not going to arrest any of these National Guard troops who come in, right?
And I imagine the calls, if they are in patrolling neighborhoods, because for some Chicagoans to look out their window and see camouflage folks walking with automatic rifles with military officials, you're going to get a lot of 311, 911s. What's going on? Who are these people out here? The way it's going to...
It puts a stress on our infrastructure already.
And our resources. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine that it is useful for the police department, let alone the anxiety, fear, and danger it could cause to civilians, right? To Chicagoans. I think what has been, as I said, local leaders have sort of said, we are essentially asking for this not to happen. We are exploring our legal options. I got to tell you, the exploring every legal avenue feels so inadequate in the face of a president who does not care about the law. Deeply, deeply inadequate.
In many ways, it also plays into this false nostalgia of American democracy, right? The same country that at one point on the books, slavery, mass incarceration, internment, mass deportations, these are already a part of the American play, right? The way it leaves so many people sort of like harking back to, we need to return America to a form of democracy because of how abnormal this is. I think it really lets the administration off the hook for how many of its choices are sort of a continuation of poor policy making, poor decision making, poor investment.
I think what's frustrating about this moment is like when you have someone in power who, again, respects the rule of law on some level, then you can debate, are these laws good laws, right? Do the laws actually make the country better? Do they actually help people, right? You can debate the policy of, does this policy make sense? Does it actually help people or does it harm people, right? But the problem is when you have someone who does not respect the rule of law, then you can't have that debate. There's no debate over whether what's on paper is good or bad, is useful or not useful, is helpful or not helpful, because it doesn't matter.
And it leaves us in the situation in which he's still getting what he wants because he ultimately wants lawmakers across the country not only to fear him, but to cower to him.
According to the Washington Post, these plans that the Pentagon is working on, that this deployment could happen as soon as September. Again, there's also a chance it doesn't happen at all.
Doesn't happen at all.
We just spent several minutes talking about this, but I think that's part of it too, is like, it's all sort of part and parcel of, let's create this culture of fear and anxiety and take up all the air in a room so that this is the only thing we're talking about. It's the only thing we're thinking about. It's tough because, obviously there are things we can do within our communities, right? And creating avenues of community care and community support within our immediate networks. But it is so easy to feel on the large scale, right? That's all triage at some point, that there isn't really a lot we can do sitting here behind our podcast mics, to actually stop it. And that is the most sort of debilitating aspect of it all, is just feeling like we're spectating and triaging. I just wanted to give a shout out to our friends at CityCast DC, of course, who have been covering day in and day out what's been going on there. And I think if, you want to get a sense of what it has actually been like in a city like DC, you should definitely go and check out their coverage at dc.citycast.fm.
You're going to want to bring your tissues for this fascinating theater pick. Come From Away is at Paramount Theater in Aurora. The show is based on a true story, y'all, of a small town in Newfoundland that took in nearly, get this, 7,000 stranded passengers from over 100 countries after planes were grounded because of the 9/11 attacks. 38 of those planes, international flights, landed in Gander, the town that welcomed the world. Nominated for 7 Tony Awards, including Best Musical and Best Original Score, the Chicago area premiere offers a simple message that kindness can and should reach across all borders. Experience the small town generosity. Come From Away runs August 20th through October 12th in downtown Aurora. Don't wait. Get your tickets today at ParamountAurora.com. So the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts got a bunch of comedy acts coming through this month, and I think the team is coined the perfect tongue twister log line for it. Y'all ready? Skokie Seriously Side Split in September. Gonna say that 3 times fast because they've got 3 shows you don't want to miss. On September 6th, they got the legend Caroline Rhea in the building. Well, she a legend to me because I remember her as Aunt Hilda from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. On September 20th, Emmy nominee and the only Olympics commentator I want to hear from, Leslie Jones, is coming to blow the roof off that mug. Then on September 27th, Paula Poundstone is closing out the month, bringing that same razor sharp wit that she does to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com for the best deals and most reliable pricing, or stop by the North Shore Center box office in Skokie, open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 5, and Sundays 2 hours before showtime. Similar to our episode yesterday, Simone, we are going to check in on one of the city's long-standing plans to effectively transform Chicago for the better. The Sun-Times recently tapped into Chicago's Vision Zero plan. This was a plan that was released back in 2017, so almost 10 years ago. Simone, what was the plan intended to do, and how is the city progressing on those stated goals?
Yeah, so Vision Zero is essentially trying to eliminate traffic deaths, get rid of all of them, no traffic deaths. And in this case, the goal was to eliminate traffic deaths in Chicago by 2026. And Chicago is not even a little bit close.
Is this a plan that only was happening in Chicago, or is this one of those things that like Vote or Die or something? Like it was like a campaign that was national?
It was an international movement, actually, across the world. You know, a lot of these plans came out around the 2010s. There were several elements to trying to reduce traffic deaths, specifically, I think, pedestrian and cyclist deaths, most prominently. And, this ranged from adding more bike lanes, more bike infrastructure, safety infrastructure, traffic calming, so like bump outs, roundabouts, also talking about speed enforcement. Speed's a huge factor when it comes to the lethality of a crash. So talking about speed enforcement, reducing speed limits, that happened in a lot of cities around the country in the past 10 years. So Chicago is not even close to this goal of eliminating traffic deaths. In 2024, Chicago logged 109 deaths on the road. That's not to even mention the 23,000 people who were injured in crashes in 2023, which is the most recent year that data was available. There's also a spike in deaths during the pandemic, which it has been sort of an interesting phenomena. Take this with a grain of salt, but it has been theorized that early in the pandemic, traffic was amazing, right? There was no one on the roads. And so if you were someone who had to be on the road, you got to go really fast. There was no one else out there. However, as people started returning to life and to work, et cetera, the congestion came back. There's also people had changed their habits. So you do have more people working from home who are maybe walking more often as opposed to driving. You have more people who are cycling. Chicago has seen a really, really big uptick in the number of cyclists since 2017. And so if you have more cyclists, that tends to mean more cyclists, right? There's just sort of a direct correlation there. I mean, again, you would hope not, because part of the reason You would think part of the reason we have more cyclists is because we're building more bike infrastructure that would hopefully keep those cyclists safe. But it doesn't quite work out that way.
I wasn't familiar with this plan when it was first announced back in 2017. However, we have reduced some speed limits. We have seen more pedestrian infrastructure. We have seen more speed cameras, at least.
Speed cameras, we've seen a lot of. That's been the big one. And, I don't. There is some evidence to suggest that like that certainly calms speeds, right, in the areas where they exist. And I think a lot of cyclists and pedestrians will be like, yes, ticket the speeders. Please slow down, because again, that speed makes a huge difference in how lethal a crash can be. But Chicago failed to, there was an ordinance, a proposal to reduce the citywide speed limit to 25 miles an hour, which a lot of cities have done. And that failed in Chicago. There was a lot of pushback. Some of Chicago's deadliest streets, the streets where cars tend to move the fastest, where there tend to be a lot of them, are streets that we don't have control over. They're streets that the state has control over, the Illinois Department of Transportation. And, there was some intergovernmental agreements happening in the past few years to sort of get them to work together to do things like more curb bump outs and again, traffic calming and slowing, or just pedestrian awareness out on those streets. But it's a barrier, right? When the city can't just do the work and has to kind of go through the state. There was actually a law in the books for a long time that those streets, and you're talking like Archer Avenue, Cicero, I think Western as well. These are really big streets that for a long time they had to be able to accommodate semi trucks. The whole point was that it was sort of part of this, network of sort of, we're talking supply chain now, right? You're getting into the logistics of it all, of moving stuff through the country. I think the other part of it that's really interesting is like police are making more traffic stops than ever, but they're almost never making speeding stops. So it's like 2/3 of all stops are for things like expired plates or taillights out or, stuff like that, right? As opposed to you're speeding or you're turning incorrectly or you're violating the laws of driving. Therefore, we're stopping you. That is happening less frequently than those other stops.
Simone, what is the deadliest road in Chicago?
Archer, I think. I think it's Archer Avenue.
I think it's DuSable Lakeshore Drive.
Oh, DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Well, yeah, that's another one. There are no speed cameras on DuSable. I'm certainly no fan of traffic cameras. Like I think they create other issues beyond sort of speed enforcement. I do generally think we should all slow down more when we drive. I'm good. It's good for the collective if we all slow down when we drive. I think that's the biggest thing an individual could do, right? Is watch their own speed. There was an expert who said this in the Sun Times article. The real trick is, like I said, you have to incentivize the behavior you want, and you should design your streets to incentivize safe behavior. And so when you have streets that are really wide and that allow for traffic to move really fast, and you don't like the space between lights is really long and the signal timing is the way it is, like, there are design choices we could make as a city to encourage people to drive less. Some of those decisions include, funding the CTA and like making sure we have bike lanes and like places to park your bike and like incentivizing other behaviors like that. But also for people who are going to drive, incentivizing the type of driving we would like to see. So that, I think, to me is the biggest thing, is like, how are we actually designing our streets? And, there have been some interesting experiments about pedestrianizing streets up here on the north side in particular. When they've been doing all this construction on Lincoln Avenue, they have several times have made that kind of pedestrian only and car free. And it's tough if you're used to driving and if you have to drive, especially if you're commuting to get from point A to point B. But in general, even if you're a commuter, if there are fewer people on the roads, your commute is faster. And so that's the big kind of shifting playing field of it all.
All right, is it just me or is the weather already starting to turn? And I ain't just talking about them thunderstorms. It's definitely cooler than the last time I told you about Window Nation's most popular deal, which means you shouldn't wait to take advantage. This month, get 50% off all window styles. You heard me correctly, half off. and August ends this week. So seriously, go ahead and do it now. You can replace your old windows with custom built, high quality new ones that'll protect your home year round. Installment only takes a day or less. Plus, Window Nation offers a lifetime warranty on all their windows, so you can rest protected. Seriously, if this has been on your to-do list the last couple weeks or months, go ahead and knock it out now. Schedule your fast free estimate with Window Nation. Call 866-90-NATION or head to windownation.com. Before we get out of here, earlier this morning, I was reading on Block Club Chicago's site, as I do every single morning during the week. And Simone, I found this very cool story from Lena Scene about a puzzle maker up in Edgewater. I believe his name is Sandy Weiss. And he has a new online, like, word discovery game. How exactly would you describe it?
It's like a word ladder. It's a
like
word ladder.
ladder. Exactly. He has a new word ladder game called Raddle. Simone, can you describe Raddle to us? And then you and I are going to play around.
Yeah, so Raddle, Raddle, which is an anagram of ladder. So that tells you anything about the kind of game that we're going to be playing here. So the idea, if you know what a word ladder is, basically a word ladder is you are given a word and you're trying to get to another word in a number of steps. The twist with Raddle, in a number of steps by changing letters in that word, typically is how a word ladder is done. The twist on Raddle is instead of, having a word where you're only changing the letter, there are clues to help you get to whatever the next word in the ladder is. The twist on the twist is those clues are out of order. So you have to correctly figure out which clue goes to which line. It's with a regular word ladder, people who are very experienced will probably be able to figure those out like very quickly. They can see point A to point B in like no time. This is a lot harder because sometimes you think you know where it's going and it kind of doesn't go there. And so we have been experimenting with this a little bit. I've played a few. It's pretty tough. I
played one. It took me a couple minutes.
So this one we're gonna play today's Jacoby. That is Monday, August 25th, our today as we record this. And so the title is From Gimme, Gimme, to Shelter. And so we start with the word gimme. The next word in the chain is a 5-letter word. And here are some of the clues. We have gimme blank, home for rescues, blank gimme, metaphor for youth, gimme blank of summer, anagram gimme, to get a creature, Asian country made up of over 7 gimmes, capital of the gimme, change the vowels in gimme to get a kind of ray. I'm pretty sure I know exactly I'm pretty sure that's the clue.
And every time you guess the correct word, gimme switches to that word you guessed in all of the clues.
Right.
And only one of those clues will that word make sense, really.
So, for example, I am 99% sure that change the vowels in gimme to get a kind of ray gets us to gamma. Correct. I to A, E to A. And so now we're going to look at those clues again. I'm not going to read them out again. Gamma is a Greek letter. I'm pretty sure it's Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Killing it.
Greek, capital of the Greek. Nike is a Greek god. 3 letters.
Reverse God to get a pet dog.
There you go. There you go. All right. Could be dog pound, home for rescues.
Dog days of summer. Days.
Oh, days is right. That's for sure correct. All right. 5 letters. Days, blank days.
Oh,
7
golden.
days.
But we're at a 5.
LDEN. That's wrong. What a metaphor for youth. Your glory days?
Oh.
Nope,
no.
that was not correct.
Okay.
We can also get a hint. The hint will tell us which clue it is.
Okay, let's get a clue.
Okay. Yes, it's blank days.
Salad days.
I've never heard that expression. Did you just look that up?
No. Topping for salad with a geographical name. That feels about right.
It's 8 and 6. So it's 2 words, 8 letters and 6 letters. The geographical name.
Pop rocks.
That you put Pop Rocks on your salad?
No, no. I was thinking, first thing I thought was croutons, but I was like, I don't know why.
Something with a place in it. Like a island, Thousand Island. Ha-ha! I got it. Thousand Island.
That's a good guess.
All right. I'm pretty sure Asian country made up of
Philippines. All right. So now it has to be capital of the Philippines, right?
Manila.
Yeah.
Anagram Manila to get a creature is animal. And then animal shelter.
Shelter.
Boom.
Come on.
We only had to
Give me the shelter.
We only had to use one hint.
Come on now.
So that's it. That's Raddle.
I ain't gonna lie. That was kind of, this might, so the 3 games on my phone that I'm constantly in rotation of are Drop 7, 2048, and Sudoku. For some reason,
God. I also still play 2048. That's so funny.
I'm not gonna lie. The Wordle craze had me for a little bit, but the challenge of this, the hints, getting to the words, I don't know. This might get me before we start our morning meetings. I might be out here knocking this out every morning.
This is pretty fun. I too cycle in and out of Wordle. I think Wordle can get really boring. I actually think Wordle is more boring if you play every day.
But you in your crossword bag right now.
I'm back on my crossword train. Yeah, I can do the Monday and Tuesday with no help.
We're going to drop a link in the show notes for Raddle. And then learn some more about Sandy Weiss. Simone, you said that you think you're pretty familiar with this person when I first brought it up this morning, because you really, you are a resident gamer.
Yeah. I mean, he's a cool guy. Like, he makes puzzles and games, and like, not just sort of in the sense of stuff like this that you can play online, which again, I think it's cool to have like a local replacement for your Wordle habit if you want it. But also like experiences, like he does sort of like live
like escape rooms and stuff,
that kind of thing. Yeah. And he does it for like team building and things like that. And which I think is such a cool job.
I want to give you a huge thank you for making time to break down some of these stories and to play a little Raddle with me, G.
Hey, thanks, Jacoby.
Before we get out of here, I want to make some time for our neighborhood shout outs. That's where our CityCast Chicago neighbors, aka our members, get the chance to show some love to some businesses and organizations across the city. Today's shout out comes from Bradley P., who says Harmony House for Cats. Yes, Harmony House for Cats. Cage-free, no-kill cat shelter. What's not to love? That's Harmony House for Cats in Avondale. If you want to get like Bradley and give us a neighborhood shout out and have it featured on the pod or the newsletter, all you got to do is first become a member of CityCast Chicago. You also gonna get the perks like ad-free listening, invites to member-only events, and an exclusive email previewing the best things happening in Chicago. And then you get to send us as many neighborhood shout outs as you want. Join today at membership.citycast.fm. Now, something you're going to get at the end of every single episode, some good news. Shout out to the homies over at Luya Poetry, which is turning 7. I can't believe that it's already been 7 years. I performed in one of their very first shows back in 2018, and they're throwing a 7-year anniversary celebration this Friday at the California Clipper. I also want to show some love to my friends over at Big Kid Show, who are celebrating a very special Southside edition this Thursday at the Promontory. For more information, check the link in our show notes. All right, we did a lot today. We covered a lot of stories, gave you some events, listened to some shout outs. We're going to go ahead and take a little nappy nap, but we're going to be back bright and early tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Peace.